It all started with a joke at a party. Funny how people always say that like it's a harmless thing. Like jokes are just words. Light, forgettable. But some jokes are bombs disguised as punchlines. And this one blew the floor out from under me. You know what they say? My wife's voice cut through the music and chatter. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Laughter erupted, hers the loudest. And then she pointed at me. Pointed. At me. I froze mid-sip, bourbon burning my throat. The people around her turned, curious, hungry. Someone muttered, "No way." A guy I barely knew laughed like he was in on the secret. I forced a smile, that polite mask husbands wear when their wives roast them in public. Except, I'd never cheated. Not once. Not even in thought. My fidelity was the kind you could measure in blood. "Come on, babe," I said lightly, every muscle in my jaw screaming. "You're killing me." "Oh, don't look so serious," she chirped, swaying her champagne glass like a metronome of humiliation. "I'm just joking, unless you've got something to tell us." Laughter again, sharper this time. Like breaking glass. My ears rang. People looked at me, waiting for the denial, the proof, the performance. Inside, something snapped. Not loudly, quiet, like a thin wire giving way under too much weight. Flash forward. If you asked me later what part of that night I remember most, it wasn't the joke. It wasn't her smirk. It was the way my hand gripped the back of the bar stool, knuckles whitening, while my brain whispered, "She just gave you permission." Permission for what? At that second, I didn't know. I only knew this wasn't random. That joke had teeth. It had a target, and it wasn't me, it was us. Our marriage, our illusion. She cracked it open in front of an audience because she wanted me to see something without saying it. You ever feel a truth crawl up your spine before it hits your ears? That's what it was. And I swear to God, for half a second, I could hear the sound of my life splitting into before and after. I left the party early. No scene. No slammed doors. Just that fake smile plastered on my face as I kissed her cheek and said, "You have fun." My voice sounded calm, almost affectionate, but in my head, sirens. In the Uber, I replayed every odd moment from the past 6 months. The sudden gym obsession. The late-night texts she swore were work stuff. The new perfume that smelled like money and trouble. You know what they say, when a woman jokes about cheating, she's either testing you or telling you. And my wife, Celine, she wasn't the testing type. At home, I poured another bourbon, sat in the dark, and let the weight of it settle. She'd set the fire tonight, but the gasoline had been pooling for a while. And here's the part no one tells you. You don't go from laughter to divorce overnight. No, first comes the silence. The planning. The moment you decide to stop asking questions and start digging. Because when someone throws a grenade into your life with a smile on their face, you don't duck. You start counting the seconds before it blows. The house was dark when I got back, except for the faint glow of the digital clock on the stove. 12:47 a.m. I sat there on the couch, bourbon sweating in my hand, listening for the sound of her key in the lock. Nothing. By 1:15, the bourbon was gone, and so was the illusion that this was just a bad joke. Nobody drags their husband's name through the mud at a party full of strangers unless they've stopped caring about the fallout. That wasn't humor, it was a signal flare. A warning, or maybe a confession dressed as entertainment. At 1:26, the door finally clicked open. Her heels hit the hardwood in that lazy, staccato rhythm of someone who doesn't need to hurry. Then her laugh floated in, the same one that burned through me earlier. She didn't even notice me in the dark. "Fun night," I said. She froze mid-step. "Jesus, Rory, you scared me." She flicked on the lamp and smiled like she was auditioning for innocence. "You left early." I wasn't feeling it. My voice was calm. Too calm. If calm had a blade, I was sharpening it against her throat. She hummed, toeing off her shoes, avoiding my eyes. "You should have stayed. Things got wild." "I bet." I let that hang in the air like a storm cloud. She busied herself at the counter, pouring water, pretending she didn't feel my eyes drilling into her back. "You're not mad, are you? About the joke?" "Should I be?" I asked softly. "Say yes. Just say yes and save me from what comes next." She laughed, a little too bright. "Oh my God, Rory, it was a joke." Everyone laughed. Everyone laughed. Except me. "Good," I said, leaning forward. Because jokes only work if there's a grain of truth, right? That did it. The tiniest flicker in her eyes, gone as fast as it came. But I saw it. You don't spend 10 years with someone and miss that microsecond where their soul flinches. I didn't push. Not yet. You don't hunt by charging into the trees screaming. You wait. You track. You let the prey get comfortable. At 3 a.m., she was asleep. I wasn't. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every laugh, every word, every sideways glance. My gut kept whispering the same thing. There's someone else. But gut feelings don't hold up in court or in divorce settlements. You need proof. Cold, hard, indisputable proof. And I was done being the fool who takes things on faith. So I slid out of bed like a thief, bare feet on cool tile, heart beating steady because this wasn't a crime. Not really. It was survival. I opened her purse first. Nothing but lip gloss and receipts from places we never go. Then her phone. Face ID. Locked. Of course. But here's the thing. We share a bank account, and banks don't lie. I logged in on my laptop and scrolled. One name kept showing up on Venmo transfers. Blake B. Cute little emojis next to every payment. Wine glass. Fire. Heart. Blake. As in Mr. Blake from her job. The one she said looked like an indie movie star. The guy she toasted at the party. I sat back, fingers hovering over the keyboard, and laughed once. Quiet. Sharp. Because now it wasn't a hunch, it was a map. And guess what? I know how to read maps. Here's where I should have confronted her, right? Shaken her awake, demanded answers. That's the move everyone makes in bad movies. But I'm not everyone. I don't want an argument. I want a clean kill, the kind that leaves no fingerprints, just a signature on a divorce decree. And if I play this right, she won't just lose me. She'll lose everything she thought she was walking away with. Because that joke? That was the fuse. And now the fire's crawling fast. By morning, I traded bourbon for black coffee and the last shred of denial for something sharper. Call it clarity. Call it vengeance in a tailored suit. Whatever it was, it hummed in my veins like electricity. Celine padded into the kitchen around 8:30 a.m., hair a little tangled, skin glowing like she'd spent the night dreaming about someone who wasn't me. She smiled. Casual, easy, like nothing had fractured. Like last night's grenade never went off. Morning, she said, reaching for the French press. You left early. I didn't look up from my laptop. Yeah, wanted to beat the traffic. She laughed softly, like that was a good one. Beat the traffic at midnight. Long night, she probed. Not as long as yours, I said. Kept my tone light, casual, a man scrolling through emails, not the man mapping her downfall. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched her. That micro-freeze again. Barely a second. A deer catching the faintest scent of blood. Then she masked it with a smile. Always the actress. When she left for work, heels clicking down the hallway like a countdown, I opened a new tab and started step 1. Control the battlefield. She thought she was the only one running games. Cute. I'm an auditor by trade. I don't miss patterns. And Celine? She'd been leaving breadcrumbs like she wanted someone to follow. Password recovery email for her work account went to her personal Gmail. Lyft rides billed at midnight from addresses that didn't match client meetings. And the piece de resistance, that Blake B. thread on Venmo. Wine. Fire. Heart. She wanted excitement. I'd give her fireworks. First move, finances. I logged into our joint accounts and set alerts. Every transaction over $20 pinged me in real time. I also opened a new personal account, quiet, secure, and started diverting my direct deposits. She wouldn't notice for a few weeks, maybe months. Long enough for me to build my escape fund. Second move, intel. I ordered 2 things off Amazon with overnight delivery. A discreet GPS tracker and a key fob camera small enough to fit in the palm of my hand. I wasn't playing guessing games anymore. By 11 a.m., I was at the Apple store buying a burner phone and a second iCloud account. Because the first rule of war? Never fight on enemy turf. That night, she came home glowing. And I mean glowing like she'd swallowed the sun or something else warm. She tossed her bag on the couch and kissed my cheek like nothing had shifted. Like she wasn't burning the house down behind my back. How was your day? She asked, voice soft melodic. The kind of tone that used to make me want to lean in. Now it just made me want to laugh. Productive, I said. What did you work on? Details, I replied, meeting her eyes dead on. Lots of little details. She blinked, hesitated, then smiled and slid out of her heels like a woman who thought she still owned the room. And that's when I knew she didn't see it coming. Not even close. At 2 a.m., when she was asleep, I slipped into the garage and installed the GPS tracker under her Lexus. Took me 5 minutes. The rush I felt afterward? It wasn't guilt. It was power. The kind I hadn't felt in years. Because here's the truth. When someone turns your life into a joke, you get 2 choices. Laugh with them, or make sure you're the one writing the punchline. And me? I wasn't just writing the punchline. I was about to rewrite the whole damn script. The ping came on a Thursday night at 9:12 p.m. I was in the living room, pretending to watch some Netflix thriller while she texted from the kitchen, smiling at her phone like it was telling her bedtime stories. I knew better. Smiles like that don't come from group chats about skincare routines. The tracker app vibrated in my pocket. Lexus in motion. Not toward her office. Not toward home. Eastbound. Toward the waterfront. My stomach didn't twist. It hardened. Because confirmation doesn't hurt when you've already buried hope. Late night? I asked, eyes still on the TV. Just wrapping up reports, she said without missing a beat. That voice, steady, casual. She could have passed a polygraph with it. Don't stay too late, I murmured. She kissed the top of my head on her way out. I didn't flinch. I just listened to the click of her heels fade into the night like the soundtrack to a heist movie. 9 minutes later, I was in my car. Engine off, parked half a block from the waterfront bistro where the Lexus icon finally stopped moving. A place with white tablecloths and prices that scream commitment. Funny, though, I never got invited to this little slice of heaven. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I saw her. Burgundy dress. Hair curled just so. And across from her, a man with the kind of jawline that makes bad decisions look noble. Blake. Had to be. Mr. Indie movie star from her office mixer. They weren't touching, yet. But their bodies leaned so far across the table they might as well have been sharing oxygen. She laughed, tossing her hair like the heroine in a rom-com. And he looked at her like she was the last glass of water in a desert. I snapped 3 photos on my burner. Crisp. Indisputable. Then I started the video, catching every smile, every hand graze. Evidence, clean as glass. You know what's worse than watching your wife cheat? Watching her glow in a way she hasn't in years, and realizing you remember that version of her. The one who used to look at you like that. For 2 whole minutes, something almost cracked in me. But then I remembered the joke. Her laugh. The audience. And the crack sealed into steel. When she finally walked out, hand brushing Blake's like a rehearsed accident, I didn't follow them. Not yet. I waited until they split, him heading toward a black Audi, her sliding into the Lexus like nothing had happened. She came home at 11:42. Smelled like wine and betrayal with a hint of expensive cologne she'd never admit wasn't mine. How was your night? I asked, voice syrupy. Long. She sighed, kicking off her heels. You? Quiet, I said, meeting her eyes. Almost boring. She smiled, kissed me soft on the lips, and headed upstairs. Like I was the safest man alive. That night, lying next to her while she drifted into sleep, I stared at the ceiling and thought about leverage. How it's built, how it's used. I had photos, video, timestamps. Enough to nuke her life in one click. But burning it all down now? That's what amateurs do. No, the real play is patience. You let them dig until the hole's too deep for daylight. And me? I wasn't just patient. I was about to turn her little love story into a cautionary tale. The thing about evidence? It's not a weapon until you decide to use it. Until then, it's just weight, sitting on your chest, pressing harder every time she says, "Love you, babe." Like the words still mean something. By Friday, I had more weight than a vault. GPS logs, photos, video clips so clear you could see her pupils dilate when Blake touched her wrist. Every ping on that tracker was a nail in the coffin of maybe I'm wrong. But here's where most guys screw up. They rush. Blow everything up in a screaming match that ends with lawyers feeding on the carcass. I didn't want to fight. I wanted control. And the first step in control? Smile like nothing's broken. Friday night, she suggested takeout. I offered sushi, her favorite. She lit up like I'd read her mind, not her Venmo history. While she showered, I set the table, poured her wine, even queued up her playlist, the one she used to put on when we were still good. Nostalgia as a weapon. You'd be amazed how disarming it is. She came down in that old college sweatshirt, hair damp, smelling like lavender and sin. Wow. She laughed, looking at the candles. What's this for? Us, I said smoothly. Thought we could use a little reset. She melted. God, the irony. She thought she was juggling 2 lives like a pro, and here I was setting the stage for the 3rd act. Dinner was soft laughs, shared roles, her phone face down like a halo of innocence. She even reached across the table, brushed my hand, whispered, "I've missed this." I smiled back, not because I believed her, because the mask was working, because guilt makes people sloppy, and she was already loosening her seams. At 10:30, She fell asleep on the couch mid-Netflix episode, wine glass half full. I watched her chest rise and fall, and thought, you still think you're safe, don't you? Then I did something she'll never see coming. I picked up her phone. No Face ID needed. She was out cold. I opened the camera roll first. Harmless selfies. A few memes. Then the hidden folder, because everyone has one. And there it was. Her in that burgundy dress from the bistro, smiling into the camera with a caption under a photo of 2 wine glasses. To new beginnings. Fire. My pulse didn't spike. My hands didn't shake. I just copied everything to the burner, then slid the phone back like nothing happened. Here's the twist you've been waiting for. Divorce wasn't the plan anymore. Not just divorce. That's too clean, too merciful. No. I was going to dismantle her world piece by piece and make her walk through the rubble smiling. Why? Because she didn't just cheat. She humiliated me. Publicly. And where I come from, humiliation is war. By midnight, I drafted the email to Blake's corporate HR department. Subject line, potential breach of company ethics policy. Attachments, photos, timestamps, locations. A little note about inappropriate relationships affecting client trust. Signed from an anonymous account routed through 3 VPNs. Click. Sent. And just like that, the joke from last Saturday? It had teeth now. Sharp ones. The first ping came Monday morning, 8:07 a.m. Blake's company issued a compliance review announcement. I know because I was CC'd anonymously on the internal memo. The tone was corporate cold. Effective immediately, Mr. Blake Barlow is placed on leave pending investigation into violations of workplace ethics policies. I sat there with my coffee, scrolling the email on my burner, and smiled. Not a big smile. Just that small curl at the edge of your mouth when you know the first domino has tipped. By 8:30, Celine was pacing the kitchen, phone glued to her ear. Hair unbrushed, voice sharp, like a CEO dealing with a hostile takeover. Blake, call me back. What the hell happened? Her bare feet slapped the tile. She didn't even notice me buttering toast 3 feet away. You okay? I asked lightly. She froze. Just for a second. Then plastered on a grin so fake it belonged on reality TV. Yeah, just work stuff. You know. Oh, I know. She left in a rush, sloppy ponytail, makeup half done, like the world was suddenly on fire. Which, for her, it was. As soon as the Lexus pulled out, I checked the tracker. Straight to the waterfront office. Not home. Not a hotel. She wasn't running yet. Good. I wanted her to stay still while the ground shifted. At 10:14, another email landed in my anonymous inbox. This one wasn't corporate. It was personal. From Blake. To me. Whoever you are, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. You have no idea who you're messing with. I laughed out loud in the empty kitchen. Classic move. Bluff first, panic later. He didn't know who he was messing with either. By noon, I had him digging his own grave. See, panic makes people reckless. And Blake? He was practically sprinting toward the cliff. He started texting Celine like a man drowning, screenshots rolling into the cloud backup I'd set on her phone the night I played Ghost in the Shell. Blake, we need to talk now. They have everything. This wasn't supposed to happen. Celine, calm down. I'll fix it. Blake, you can't fix this. They're pulling my access. They're asking about you. Oh, sweetheart. The noose isn't even around your neck yet, and you're already promising to fix it. That was my cue to pull the next lever. 3:06 p.m. I called our bank. Froze the joint credit card under the guise of suspicious activity. Set a spending alert so tight she couldn't buy a latte without my phone lighting up. Then I transferred another chunk of cash to my private account. Quiet. Surgical. Because this wasn't just about catching her. It was about leaving her nowhere to land. She stumbled home after 7. Hair frazzled. Face tight with panic disguised as exhaustion. Tossed her bag on the chair like it owed her money. Everything okay? I asked, casual as a man watching the news. She forced a smile. Just a crazy day. Want to talk about it? No, she said too quickly, pouring herself 2 fingers of whiskey she never touches unless the world's cracking. I watched her drain it in one go and thought, you're breaking faster than I expected. But then something happened I didn't plan for. She walked over, sat on the arm of my chair, and kissed my temple. Soft, lingering, like the ghost of a marriage we used to have. Thanks for being steady, she whispered. For a second, I almost forgot the emails, the photos, the fire I'd lit under her life. For a second, I almost let my hand rest on hers. Almost. Then I remembered Blake's text. You have no idea who you're messing with. And I thought, Neither do you, sweetheart. Neither do you. I woke up Tuesday to silence. Not the soft kind. Not the cozy, Sunday morning silence. This was sharp, metallic. A silence that tells you something's wrong before you even open your eyes. Her side of the bed was empty. Sheets cold. Downstairs, the Lexus was gone. Tracker said, location disabled. That's when my stomach knotted, not from fear, but from recognition. She'd found it. I stared at the app, the dead signal pulsing like a heartbeat flatlining, and felt the first flicker of real heat in my chest. She wasn't stupid. I'd underestimated that. And underestimating your opponent is how you end up face down on the chessboard. At 9:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not the burner. My real phone. Text from Celine. We need to talk. Dinner. 7. No emoji. No hearts. Just 7 words heavy enough to bend the air. You ever feel the ground tilt under your feet? That was me, standing in my kitchen with a cold mug of coffee thinking, did she flip this? Did she just turn my war into hers? The rest of the day was a waiting game, and waiting makes men stupid. I almost called my lawyer. Almost dumped the evidence in one explosive email. But instinct said hold. Observe. Adapt. At 6:58 p.m., I walked into the restaurant she chose. Not our usual spot. Somewhere upscale, glossy, the kind of place where secrets don't echo because the walls are padded in velvet. She was already there. Hair perfect. Dress black. The kind of black that says, this is a funeral, you just don't know it yet. Rory, she purred, rising to kiss my cheek. Too warm. Too sweet. Poison honey. We sat. I ordered whiskey neat, she got wine. For a few beats, it was polite. Pointless chatter about traffic and weather, the way predators circle before the strike. Then she dropped it. I know what you did. For words. Calm. Deadly. I sipped my drink, tasted the fire on my tongue. You'll have to be more specific. Her smile didn't touch her eyes. The email. HR. Blake on leave. You really think I wouldn't find out? My pulse didn't spike. Years of poker face training for this exact moment. Sounds like Blake has his own problems, I said smoothly. She leaned in, voice a whisper wrapped in silk. And now so do you. That's when she slid the envelope across the table. Thick. Heavy. I opened it slow. Inside, a printout of our bank transfers, including the ones I thought were invisible. Screenshots of my GPS order. A photo of me sitting in my car outside that bistro. She'd been watching me watch her. You're good, she said softly, like a compliment. Then she tilted her head, the diamond studs in her ears catching the light. But I'm better. For the first time since this started, I felt something cold bloom in my gut. Not fear. Something meaner. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't about saving a marriage anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. This was a war without a white flag. And Celine? She'd just fired the first real shot. I stared at the photo of me in my car, rain streaking the windshield like a confession I never wrote. She sat across from me cool as marble, sipping her wine while my world rearranged itself in slow motion. You've been busy, I said finally, sliding the envelope back. Her smile was all edges. You're not the only one who knows how to play. This was the moment I expected her to break, to cry, to beg, to promise she'd end it with Blake. Instead, she leaned forward, elbows on the table like a poker player about to shove her entire stack. Here's what's going to happen, she said softly. We're not going to blow up each other's lives. I laughed. Couldn't help it. A sharp, humorless sound that made the couple at the next table glance over. Is that what you think this is? I asked. No, she said calmly. That's what I know this is. She pulled out a second sheet of paper. Typed. Bullet points. My name at the top like a headline in a paper I didn't want to read. Joint accounts remain untouched. We file for divorce amicably in 60 days. We keep everything off social media. No one loses their job. I stared at her, throat dry. And if I say no? Her eyes met mine, steady, cold. Then your little anonymous tip becomes a criminal harassment case. Stalking. Digital intrusion. Do you know how that plays in court, Rory? Or better yet, in your industry? She let that sink in before adding the dagger. I have the screenshots. The GPS order. The cloud backup you didn't secure. You were sloppy, love. Sloppy. The word burned like acid. For a second, I couldn't hear the clink of silverware or the low hum of conversation around us. Just the rush of blood in my ears and the realization that I was sitting across from someone who didn't just cheat. She evolved. You planned this, I said quietly. No, she whispered, smiling like a cat that just ate the canary. You did. I just adapted. She slid the second envelope across the table, this one thinner, lighter. I opened it and felt the floor tilt. A prenup amendment form, drafted and dated yesterday. My signature line already highlighted. You sign this, she said. We walk away clean. You keep your job, your reputation, your precious audit career. Or, she sipped her wine, slow and cruel. You try to burn me, and watch the fire take you first. Here's the thing. She thought she had me cornered. Thought she'd built the perfect cage. But cages have bars, and bars have gaps if you know where to look. I leaned back, forcing a smile I didn't feel. 60 days, huh? 60 days, she echoed. And we never speak of this again. I nodded slowly, sliding the papers back into the envelope. I'll think about it. She smiled like she'd already won. And maybe she had, for the moment. But what she didn't know, while she was busy pulling my strings, I'd already cut hers. Because in my jacket pocket sat a second burner phone, and on that burner was a recording of every word she'd just said. Insurance. The kind that doesn't just cover you. It lets you burn the house down and walk away clean. As we stood to leave, she touched my arm lightly, the way she used to before we stopped being us. Don't do anything stupid, she murmured. I smiled. Depends on how you define stupid. I signed the papers. Not right away. I let them sit on my desk for 2 days, taunting me like a dare. Her deal spelled out in neat bullet points, as if my life were an email chain she could just archive. 60 days to walk away quietly, reputation intact. That's what she thought I'd cling to, my job, my clean name, my love for control. She didn't realize she'd just handed me a blueprint. The night I signed, I cooked her dinner. Not takeout, not sushi, steak, her favorite. Set the table like we were back in year 2, when we still believed anniversaries meant something. She walked in, heels clicking like gunfire, and froze at the sight of candles. Wow, she said, lips curling. What's this? Closure, I told her. Smooth, calm, a man at peace with his decision. We ate like strangers pretending to remember how to be lovers. She laughed at one of my jokes, a real laugh this time, not the brittle one from the party, and for a second, I saw the woman I married. But ghosts don't stay long. When dessert was done, I slid the envelope across the table. Signed. Dated. She opened it, scanned the page, and smiled like a queen watching the executioner bow. Smart choice, she said softly. Yeah, I replied, sipping my wine. I'm full of those lately. She didn't know the ink on that paper meant nothing. Because 2 hours earlier, I'd uploaded every recording, every photo, every text to a secure drive. Not to use as a weapon in court. No, that was amateur hour. This wasn't about the law anymore. This was about narrative. About control. I sent one email before dinner. Not to HR. Not to Blake. To their board of directors. Anonymous, of course. With attachments. The kind that turns whispers into headlines. At 11:42 p.m. While she slept in the guest room, until things cooled down, my phone buzzed with the alert. Breaking, Blake Barlow under investigation for ethics violations. CEO confirms zero-tolerance policy. By morning, his name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Financial irregularities. Inappropriate relationships. Whispers about coercion. Every ounce of mud I'd shoveled was now burying him alive. And Celine? She wasn't in the articles. Not yet. But give it time. When Blake falls, he'll grab every vine on the way down, including hers. At 8:03 a.m., she walked into the kitchen, phone in hand, face pale. Did you see this? She demanded, shoving the screen at me like it was my sin to confess. I glanced at the headline, shrugged. World's full of surprises. Her jaw tightened. You didn't. I signed your papers, didn't I? I smiled. Why would I ruin that, sweetheart? The way her throat worked, the way her eyes darted like trapped animals. That was my closure. Not the stake. Not the signature. That look. The moment she realized the joke wasn't on me anymore. She left without finishing her coffee. Didn't even pack her favorite mug. 2 weeks later, the divorce went through. Quiet. Clean. Just like she wanted. She got what she thought was half. I let her believe that because the real half, the accounts she didn't know existed, the offshore portfolio tied to her joint investments, already had my name on them. I moved into a condo downtown. Sleek. Minimal. No ghosts. On my first night there, I poured a bourbon, leaned against the balcony rail, and scrolled through the headline updates. Blake resigns amid scandal. Anonymous source provides proof of policy breach. Insider trading allegations under review. And then her text popped up. Just 3 words. You ruined me. I typed back. No, Celine. You started with a joke. Sent it. Set the phone down. Watch the city lights shimmer like 1,000 tiny fires. You ever hear people say laughter is the best medicine? They're wrong. Laughter's a weapon. And if you're sharp enough, it's the one you use to end a war without spilling a single drop of blood.